Hi, my name is Harley, and I'm going to be talking to you a little bit today about the Cuban tree frog. It is an invasive species here in Florida. So, the Cuban tree frog, as the name presents, they are native to Cuba, the Cayman Islands, and to the Bahamas. They were introduced throughout the Caribbean, in Hawaii, and in Florida. The Cuban tree frog has established breeding populations throughout the Florida Peninsula and in several places in the Panhandle. So, in this photo that was actually provided by Dr. Steve Johnson at UF, the shaded green areas are where we have established breeding populations, and in the white areas is where there have not been any sightings. And so, if there's any sightings in the unshaded white area, it is actually recommended that you report it to Dr. Johnson at UF, and the link is here. And so the ecological impact of the Cuban tree frog. So Cuban tree frogs prey on our native frogs, small lizards, small snakes. Their tadpoles can outcompete native tadpoles for food, space, and they're believed to be causing a decline in our native tree frog population currently. And so any tree frog in Florida that is larger than 2.5 inches is definitely not native and is probably a Cuban tree frog. And you can see in the photo here provided on the right-hand side of the screen, like all tree frogs, they have enlarged sticky toe pads, but the toe pads in the Cuban tree frog are actually quite large and wider than the toe pads of the native tree frogs. There are human health and quality of life risks with the Cuban tree frog. They secrete mucus that can irritate eyes and nose and cause allergy-like symptoms and even trigger asthma attacks in some people. They breed loudly after midnight in pools, ponds, bird baths, etc. They invade toilets and can clog drains and invade power boxes and cause power outages. Here in Central Florida, there was a warning put into effect as the Cuban tree frog can actually carry a zoonotic parasite, the rat lungworm, and this zoonotic parasite can spread to people and to their pets. And so, what does this mean? It means that the Cuban tree frog is an interesting creature. They have amazing adaptations to help them avoid drying out or being eaten by predators. The irritating skin secretions are a great example of that. But unfortunately, in Florida, their presence is just not benign. They're quite literally eating our native species alive and adding pressure to a species that's already greatly affected by habitat loss. It's actually recommended if you encounter a Cuban tree frog to perform humane euthanasia. It's actually illegal to release them back into our ecosystem. What you'll need is gloves and to apply a liberal amount of benzocaine lidocaine. This is basically Orajel and it's available over the counter, and you'll apply it liberally to the belly of the frog. You'll place them into a plastic bag and freeze overnight. And so that's currently the recommendation. And the references that I have are Dr. Steve Johnson and the articles that he's written through the UF Department of Wildlife Conservation. He's very passionate about this subject. So again, if you have any suspicious sightings in the Panhandle, please report them to Dr. Johnson at UF. Thank you.